It's finally here. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM, as well as the free iHeartRadio app. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be tuning in. It's arrived. The NFL season has officially arrived. Didn't think we would get here. February all the way till September 12th. Now, we had the Thursday night kickoff, great game between the Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of people were picking the Buccaneers pretty handily, and I thought that was a big-time mistake because the Dallas Cowboys always play tough in week one. Dak Prescott, I didn't trust the reports out there. I thought Dak Prescott was going to perform at a good level. I didn't think it was going to be a great level where he throws up for over 400 yards, but absolutely outstanding job by the Cowboys. We weren't worried about the offense. It was the defense that we were worried about. And, going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team with all that talent, with Chris Godwin, with Mike Evans, with Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, the list goes on and on and on. With all that talent, we knew that no matter how bad we thought this defense was for the Dallas Cowboys, what we thought of this Dallas Cowboys defense, we knew that it was going to be a tough opponent to go against. So now that we got potentially the best offense out of the way for the Dallas Cowboys defense, now we can see how much improvement Dan Quinn in this Dallas Cowboys defense has. Because we know we didn't have question marks about the offense last year when Dak Prescott was healthy. It was the defensive side of the ball. Dak Prescott's thrown for over 400 yards in 4 out of the last 5 games, or something ridiculous like that. Tom Brady, absolute dimes. For those of you that are box score readers, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Those 2 interceptions came off a tip ball in a Hail Mary play right before half. So that's why I don't feed too much into interceptions. If you don't take risks, you don't get interceptions. But here it is, the NFL season. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM, as well as the free iHeartRadio app. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be tuning in. You want to call into the show today. Still broadcasting from the WGY producer booth. So the phone line has changed. 1-800-TALK-WGY, 1-800-825-5949. Feel free to call live, local, right here in Latham. Feel free to call in. And this is going to be an NFL heavy show. We waited 7 months to get to this point. 7 months to get to this point. So let's start with a little bit of a rundown between the end of last year and then getting into this year. So last year, there was an average of 49.6 points per game scored by both teams combined, the most in a single season since 1970. Not only were there a lot of points scored, there was a lot of close games. Last year in 2020, just under 70% of all games were within one score, 8 points or less, within the fourth quarter. That is the second most in NFL history. And if that wasn't exciting enough, guess what? This week 1 starts the very first week 1 of an 18-week regular season. 17 games, 18 weeks regular season. Going into week 1, top selling jerseys on Fanatics, according to Fanatics, going into week 1. Some of them questionable, some of them we expected. Top selling jerseys going into week 1 are as followed. Number 1, Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills. Number 2, Mac Jones with the New England Patriots. A lot of that came after he was given the reins to the Patriots starting lineup. Number 3, no surprise here, Tom Brady with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 4, a little bit of a shock here. Justin Fields with the Chicago Bears. That's the number 4 selling jersey going into week 1. And then number 5, no shock here either, Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. Also, speaking, 2 of these guys are rookies. Going into the season, this season is expected, and we'll know early, expected because everybody's already been announced, expected to join 2012 with 5 rookie quarterbacks as the only season since 1970 in which at least 3 rookie quarterbacks have started in week 1. And this continues the streak of at least 1 rookie quarterback having started at week 1 in 14 consecutive seasons, the longest streak in the NFL since at least 1950. The youngins are taking over. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, all under the age of 25. 25 and younger. 25 and younger. So we saw Drew Brees retire. We saw Phillip Rivers retire. But there's an absolute absurd amount of young talent coming into this league. Let's not forget, Justin Herbert, Rookie of the Year. Joe Burrow looked outstanding before the ACL injury. Kyler Murray looks to be taking the next step. Josh Allen did take that next step. Lamar Jackson, MVP. Patrick Mahomes, an MVP. So there is an absurd amount of young talent. And just so we get it out of the way early, here's some things to look out for in week 1 for you NFL fans. Like I said, it's going to be an NFL heavy show. So feel free to get involved. The talk line is open, 1-800-TALK-WGY, 1-800-825-5949. Feel free to call in. But here we start. Since 1978, when the NFL went to a 16-game regular season, with the exclusion of 1982, 633 teams that have won their week 1 game, 333 went to the playoffs. So nearly a 53% clip. So if you don't think week 1 is important, it's always important to get off to the right start. But that just shows you right there. Since 1978, excluding the 82 season, where it was shortened, of the 633 teams that won their week 1 matchup, 333 went to the playoffs. About 53%. Of the 632 teams that lost the opener, and I know, doesn't seem to add up, 633 teams won, 632 teams lost. No. That due to the NFL having 31 teams from 1999 to 2001, it kind of creates a little uneven number there. But of the 632 teams that have lost the opener, 151 still made it to the playoffs, but at a lot lower clip of just under 24%. Now, history could be made. Packers fans, go Pack go. With at least 231 passing yards Sunday against New Orleans, that game is going to kick off on Fox at 4:25. Green Bay Packers quarterback and reigning MVP of the league, Aaron Rodgers, can pass Pro Football Hall of Famer John Elway for the 10th most passing yards in NFL history. You need some more history from the older NFL quarterbacks with at least 4 touchdown passes on Sunday versus Buffalo at 1 o'clock on CBS. Pittsburgh quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, who currently has 396 career touchdown passes, can become the 8th ever NFL player with at least 400 career touchdown passes. Tight end fans. There's only a handful of really, really, really good ones. You fantasy footballers know that. With at least 119 receiving yards against Cleveland today at 4:25. Travis Kelce, my Eagles fandom getting in the way. Travis Kelce will become the fastest tight end, 112 games, to reach 8,000 career receiving yards in NFL history, breaking the previous record of Rob Gronkowski, 120 games. Got a couple more here. Couple more. Newly anointed starting wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans after an offseason acquisition. Julio Jones enters his first year with the Titans with 848 receptions for 12,896 yards and 60 touchdowns in 135 career games. Jones needs two, count them, two receptions against Arizona to become the second fastest player, which would be 136 games, to reach 850 receptions in the NFL, surpassing that of Pro Football Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison, who did it in 140. The only person to do it quicker is Antonio Brown with the Pittsburgh Steelers, New England Patriots, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he reached 850 receptions in 133 games. Also, Julio Jones can become the fastest player to reach 13,000 career receiving yards with at least 104 yards today. He would surpass that of the one, the only great Jerry Rice, who did it in 154 games. But that's enough. That's enough of the rundown. Let's get into the NFL season. Let's break down some games. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be tuning in. Hope everybody's getting ready, cooking your buff dip, ordering your pizza, whatever you may be needing to do. Pick up some beer, whatever you may be needing to do. I'm here to help you get through it because it's a long ways away between 11:15 and 1 o'clock. May feel like it's under 2 hours, but those 2 hours are the slowest moving 2 hours, especially for crazy football fans. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM. You want to call into the show, 1-800-TALK-WGY, 1-800-825-5949. We'll be right back.
The pandemic's reminded us we live in a sea of airborne germs that can assault us with every breath. Your nose is the body's first line of defense by helping filter out allergens, bacteria, and viruses before they reach your lungs. But like any air filter, the more clogged up it gets, the less it works. So how do you clean your nose? I'm Martin Hoke, and I didn't invent nasal irrigation. The neti pot's been around thousands of years. But I did invent Navage to make cleaning your nose easy. Navage uses powered suction to flush out mucus and germs that cause congestion, or worse, can make you sick. Over 2 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and feel healthier without drugs. Navage has over 70,000.
Going to break down 7 out of the 14 games in this segment, then the other 7 the next segment. And then we're going to get into my pick 6 picks of the week. You know, with still an hour to get into Rivers Casino, you can make these bets, win yourself some cash.
Rick and Mick are twins. Hi. Rick and Mick wanted to get their medical marijuana cards because medical marijuana is legal here and helping more and more people every day. Count me in. Ready. So Rick researched where to find a licensed medical marijuana doctor and called the schedule and drove to the office.
If you guys have any questions, I can get them during the break, so feel free to comment. You want to call into the show, phone line open, 1-800-TALK-WGY, 1-800-825-5949. Streaming right there at the bottom. Feel free to call in. Man, this show's going to go quick. Got roughly 2.5 minutes till we get back. That's why I said if you have any comments, feel free to make them. I can get to them during the break. About a minute and a half left, just underneath. Getting there. We're getting there. Here we go. Here we go. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM, as well as the free iHeart Radio app. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be tuning in. Football season's just got me that amped up that it's so difficult to talk, getting a little tongue-tied over here. You want to call into the show, relieve me of my tongue-talking duties, 1-800-TALK-WGY, 1-800-825-5949. The greatest thing about week one, yeah, you have the Thursday night game, you have the Monday night game, but you have a slate of 14 Sunday games. 14 Sunday games. So let's start off. Philadelphia and Atlanta. Right here, you see the Eagles stuff. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, however you may be watching, thank you for supporting. Philadelphia and Atlanta, let's break it down. So Philadelphia having Jalen Hurts as their starting quarterback. Then you have the Falcons with Matt Ryan. I still don't trust this Falcons defense. I don't think they're going to have the ability to get a pass rush. Second-year corner A.J. Terrell needs to show some improvement. I feel like they went in a little bit of a reach 2 years ago when they drafted him. Let's see if it pays off. For the Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni's as competitive as they come. Is that going to help lead to wins? That remains to be seen. Jalen Hurts, me being a Alabama guy, him being a former Alabama quarterback, it's tough for me to tell because I've seen him grow from his freshman year in his very first start against USC where he fumbled the ball and then the very next play made a huge play. Ultimately, that led to a blowout of USC. So I've seen it. I've seen the lack of the ability to be a consistent, accurate passer. I also saw him get better and improve. But now it's the NFL. Now not everybody's going to be open by a mile. We saw him in 4 games last year. That wasn't enough for me. I need to know what I have in Jalen Hurts because I know as a person, as a player, he's going to do whatever it takes to win. He's going to ball out the way that he can, whether it's 300 yards passing or 100 yards passing, 200 yards, whatever it may be. And obviously 200 yards rushing would be an incredible feat by any quarterback. So I'm going above and beyond. But honestly, Jalen Hurts is going to do whatever it takes to try to win the game. Let's see if it's enough. Let's see if his leadership can rally the troops, at least in opening week one, see if they can pull off an upset in Atlanta. They are 8-2 against the Atlanta Falcons over the last 10 games. Pittsburgh and Buffalo, this is a big game for me. Not just because we're in the capital region and you got the capital region, Bills fans, the upstate mafia, as people like to call them. Josh Allen showed a lot of improvement last year, and a lot of it came without fans. And it stinks that the most successful season in over the last 20 years for the Buffalo Bills fans had to come when Bills fans weren't even allowed into the stadium until playoff time. Pittsburgh got off to that hot start, 11-0 last year. Then Ben Roethlisberger, they threw over 600 passes. if this Steelers team wants to be successful, and I truly believe that they can, I truly believe this is still a playoff team, and I'm not ready to give up because I don't think Big Ben's as washed up as everybody thinks he is. I just think when he throws 600 passes coming off shoulder injury, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. Obviously, the offensive line got to get retooled. They lost some players, whether it be retirement or, off season. They decided to sign elsewhere. They added some players in free agency. So this is a remake offensive line. One of the issues that they thought they had was getting a dominant running back, something they haven't had since Le'Veon Bell. James Conner, great story, but just wasn't getting it done. Najee Harris is as tough as nails, being a former Alabama player, tough as nails, catch the ball out of the backfield, a great blocker on passing downs. Buffalo, let's see what you have. This is two teams that need to show me something from running the ball standpoint, because we know what you're going to get from Josh Allen. We know what we're going to get from Big Ben. And I think another year removed from that shoulder injury, and I think coming in 20 pounds less than he did last year is going a long way to help preserve Ben Roethlisberger through this regular season. But let's remember, this is a guy that tires out because he comes in out of shape. And now that he's older, it's going to take longer to heal. So let's get that run game going for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ultimately, I do think Buffalo ends up winning. This game's in Buffalo. Fans are going to be excited to be back. I believe they have full capacity going. You know what? I'm sure they have full capacity going because you're allowed to sell in. You know what? Buffalo fans always show up, diving on tables, drinking beer, and cheering loud as heck. Minnesota Vikings versus the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a game that's very intriguing because you have two former LSU wide receivers going against one another. You have Jamar Chase and then Justin Jefferson. Sorry, Eagles fans, plug your ears there. I know you didn't want to hear that name. Jamar Chase has his noted struggles throughout the preseason, but guess what? It's preseason. That's a whole different ballgame. Let's go back to the Browns and the Lions, who went 3-0, both in the postseasons or preseasons, both in the years that they went 0-16. So, like I said, it's a preseason. People are going to make mistakes. If you want to make mistakes, that's the time to make them. Practice preseason. So, Kirk Cousins always, for whatever reason, starts the season really slow. They have Dalvin Cook there. I think they need to continue to lean on Dalvin Cook because when it comes to play action passes, there are very few quarterbacks in this league that are better than Kirk Cousins at playing off the play action. And I think that's something we don't talk about enough. We talk about his failures, his insecurities, his qualities that don't necessarily pass the eye test, the big game mentality, all that stuff. But we don't talk about enough what he does very, very well, and that's work off play action. There are very few, maybe 2-3 quarterbacks that are better than him when it comes to playing off the play action. Ultimately, I think the Minnesota Vikings do win this game. I think they had some momentum going towards the end of the year last year. Cincinnati Bengals, I don't know what to expect. Joe Burrow coming off that ACL injury, and there was a new way to deal with the preseason. Not a lot of people played for not a lot of time, and I think Joe Burrow is going to come out a little bit rusty. This is still a makeshift offensive line. What are we going to get from this offensive line? People can come back from one torn ACL. 2 torn ACLs, that's going to be a little more difficult. That's going to take away from some of the attributes that we like about Joe Burrow. So I think he's going to come out a little rusty, get a little bit of those jitters that maybe he had going into his rookie year. But I do think he's going to eventually ball out when he gets his feet wet, when he gets that injury off of his mind. But I think Minnesota Vikings are going to be able to take this game. Now let's go to the San Francisco 49ers and Detroit. Telling you right now, we are going to see Trey Lance in certain packages. I don't know if you've tuned into the show before or not. If you want to call in, 1-800-TALK-WGY, 1-800-825-5949. But when the 49ers first took Trey Lance, I thought, all right, Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes situation. And the more I thought about it, ultimately, this is what I'm deciding going into week 1 of the season. We are going to see a Lamar Jackson, Joe Flacco type of season. Joe Flacco was the starter. Lamar Jackson got sprinkled in here, sprinkled in there, until eventually he took over as a full-time starter. That's what we're going to see with the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo's the starter. You're going to see some sprinkling of Trey Lance here, Trey Lance there. Now, this is a big line. I think the line is -9 right now. I think Rivers Casino has it. That's a big line for me. Detroit, they have a above-average quarterback. I don't think Jared Goff's as bad as everyone thinks he is. I do think Sean McVay had a lot to do with his success over a 2-year period in year 2 and year 3. And then after that, he kind of fell back a little bit in the Sean McVay system as he really opened up reins for the quarterback. But this isn't a completely incompetent quarterback. They have Penei Sewell, a already marked down Hall of Famer at the left tackle, even though he hasn't played one career game. Dan Campbell, the newly anointed head coach for the Detroit Lions, wants to bite off some kneecaps. I think he's going to have this team playing competitive, but the lack of talent is really what's going to hold this team back. I don't think they may shock some teams. They might surprise some teams. They may play spoiler, but ultimately this team's not going to win very many games. I'm going to say 5 or 6 games this season. Let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals going against Tennessee Titans. You have the air raid attack against the ground and pound attack. So this game could see a lot of points and a lot of quick action. Let's see if Tennessee decides to get in that shootout. It all depends on how the game starts. If the Arizona Cardinals get off and running to that air raid attack that they have so well, I think this is a make or break season for Kyler Murray. I know he's shown a lot, but he hasn't shown enough. They haven't won. I know it's the toughest division in sports. But you bring in a new head coach, you bring in a new quarterback, you expect results, and they've slowly gotten there. Just missed out on the playoffs last year. I need to see the playoffs this year from the Arizona Cardinals. I need them to win big games against big teams, big opponents. And it's going to start against the Tennessee Titans, a playoff team. Next, we have the Seattle Seahawks going against the Indianapolis Colts. There's a lot of 1 o'clock games. A lot of 1 o'clock games. First week of the season, you have 14 games. 14 games to watch on Sunday. Indianapolis Colts and Seattle Seahawks. This defense for the Seattle Seahawks, while it's completely different and completely more dominant when Jamal Adams plays, they still have an issue getting after the quarterback. That bodes well for a guy in Carson Wentz that we thought 4 or 5 weeks ago he wasn't going to start week 1. He could potentially miss the first 6 weeks of the season. Now, I didn't want to overreact because I knew that it was a foot injury 5 weeks before the season, that he had time to start. He had time to rehab. He had time to start week 1, and he is. We've seen how well Carson Wentz works with Frank Reich as an offensive coordinator. Now he has Frank Reich as his head coach. He has a top 10 roster in the Indianapolis Colts. Chris Ballard has done an excellent job building that franchise. If you want to talk about a team that learned from their mistakes when they had a talented guy named Andrew Luck, talk about the Indianapolis Colts, because this is a team that absolutely bounced back in the hardest way possible. They built the whole roster and then went to the quarterback. And they had the assets to go ahead and get a guy like Carson Wentz, even though maybe Matt Stafford was their number 1 choice. They were still able to pull the trigger on who they wanted to lead. They had Phillip Rivers last year. They wanted Matthew Stafford. Ultimately, they didn't want to give up that much because this is a team still building. This is a team that loves their assets. They just paid big money to their linebacker, Darius Leonard. They have their quarterback, Carson Wentz, who's looking for a bounce-back season. And everybody forgets, this guy does fumble the ball a lot, but he was never really an interception machine. For whatever reason it was last year that he threw all those interceptions, we'll see what it is moving forward. But this is a guy that really never threw that many interceptions. He had 3 seasons in a row of 20-plus in touchdowns compared to 7 interceptions. One of a handful, if not any, that have ever done that in the NFL. But as long as Russell Wilson's the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, it's hard to pick against the Seahawks. Very hard to pick against the Seahawks. Now let's go to the Los Angeles Chargers going against one of the more dominant defenses in the league, the Washington football team. First game of the season, I think this is where we get the hot Ryan Fitzpatrick. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, it's a roller coaster ride with Ryan Fitzpatrick. You have your ebbs and your flows, your hots, your colds. When this guy is on, and don't consider this as a hot take, when Ryan Fitzpatrick is on, he is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. That's the issue, though, is he's too inconsistent. You don't know if you're getting Jekyll or Hyde. You don't know if you're getting hot or cold. But week 1, going into the season, had all offseason to gel with his teammates. I think you're going to get hot Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know what to get from Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers, but the reason that I'm still going to predict them to win, number one reason, is because they got the best safety in the league. Now, I know he's missed the last 2 years, but Derwin James is one of my favorite defensive players. You want to talk about a guy that you game plan for? We all know about Aaron Donald. We all know the impact that he has on the defensive side of the ball. Think about that from Derwin James. He's going to fly everywhere on this field. And that's something the Chargers have missed over the last handful of years. They don't have that closer on the defensive side of the ball. They've been missing Derwin James that can make those big plays on third down, that can make those big plays late in the fourth quarter. The Chargers are one of those teams where if there was a way to lose, they found it. But I think with Derwin James back there being healthy, they go ahead and they draft Asante Samuel Jr., another type of playmaker. I think this is a team on the rise. That's why I've been buying into the Chargers, not just because Justin Herbert can throw for a lot of yards and a lot of hurries. It's because this defense is vastly improved. You got a healthy defensive line. You have a healthy Derwin James for the first time in 2 years. You have a playmaking defensive back now. You have a playmaking safety that can absolutely play like a Budda Baker, like a Jamal Adams, be all over the field. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM. Should just rename this show For the Love of Football. But coming up in 4 minutes, I want to break down the last 7 games of Sunday, and then I'm going to get into my pick 6. I want to win you guys some money, so I'm going to try to do this real quick the next segment. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM. What do we got going on?
Book an appointment to see a state-licensed doctor, online, on demand. Ask any questions you might have about medical cannabis and how it could affect you individually. Answer a few questions about your health concerns. Then, if you're approved, get certified and get your medical marijuana card. Wasn't that easy? And you didn't have to stand in line or wait in a doctor's office to do it. Go to fairheal.com. Book your appointment, get approved, and receive your card. Hundreds of thousands of happy customers nationwide and countless 5-star reviews confirm what you'll discover. Getting your medical cannabis card is easy as BERIHEAL. It's not complicated. It's Veriheal. Veriheal.com.
It's going to be a good season. Good season. Got about 2.5 minutes. Got to figure something better to do during these breaks. If you guys give questions, it'd be a lot easier. You can get to the questions during the breaks. You want to call in, call in. Number scrolling at the bottom. Don't worry. For those of you looking to make money, it's coming. 1-800-825-5949. Feel free to call in. Got about 2 minutes. Looks like we might be having a phone call soon. Probably should give that on air a little more. There we go. Fox Sports. What oh good. It's been a long morning. Long football morning. Exactly. But yeah. Me too. Me too. Man, and then I get to watch my 2 Alabama guys. Talk about whatever you want. That's fine. You're my caller, I'm your listener, all right? You're my caller, I'm your listener. So I got about 20 seconds. I'm going to put you on hold and I'll bring you on, all right? All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate the phone call.
Feel it, baby.
Oh, I can feel it.
I can too.
This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM. You know, straight from the words of Marky Mark. Can you feel, baby? Yeah, I can absolutely feel it. Football season has finally arrived. You know that meme with the squirrel raising his hands and somebody puts on top of it, football season has finally arrived? That's literally what I felt like when I woke up. Threw my hands in the air like it was Christmas morning, because for me, it absolutely is Christmas morning. And one of my favorite parts about doing football during these segments is that I get to hear from my favorite caller, one of my best friends, Alec the Eagle Fanatic, joining me on the 1-800-TALK-WGY hotline. Alec, it's been great to hear from you. You know, I missed you a little bit last year because I had Billy Blake, but welcome back to Fox Sports, and how can we help you this morning? Well, first of all, I absolutely cannot wait for the Dolphins versus the Patriots. And, you know, I want to watch Josh Allen. I want to watch all the rookies, but that's the one that has me the most, besides the fact that I'm watching Jalen Hurts. So 3 of my Bama boys, 3 quarterbacks starting, breaking that trend of Alabama doesn't produce NFL starting quarterbacks. Now, as far as the Atlanta Falcons and the Philadelphia Eagles, if the Eagles were favored by 3.5 points, I would take the Atlanta Falcons. But since it's plus 3.5, I have to go with the Eagles. This is going to be a close game. Nick Sirianni has these guys playing rock, paper, scissors. I kind of talked about Nick Sirianni being that guy, that uncle that goes outside and plays basketball with his niece and just the 6-year-old niece goes to shoot a shot and just gets swatted because Nick Sirianni hates to lose. Same mentality for Jalen Hurts. So I feel like this season, although it may not lead to very many wins, is going to be a competitive season. And I look forward to it. I think this is going to be the most exciting season that we've had since 2017, 2018. And you know what happened that year.
We have our moments, if you will. So for me, I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can. All fantasy players aside, because I've only got 2 Eagles this year. No, 3 of them. I got Ertz, Jalen, and I've got Devontae, I believe. So no, Miles Sanders. I'm sorry. So those are guys I'm looking forward to. But I don't know. I don't know if I see them going 500 or not. I'm thinking 9-8. We got that extra game. Hopefully that can play something of importance with us. But I think we're really not going to see their true form until maybe week 3 to week 5. Honestly, that's my opinion on it.
Bill Belichick always talked about how the first 4 games of the regular season is where they really try to find their identity. And I think that's true for any NFL team. Like, we have all off season, but then you get to the games, you get to where it's going to work, where it's not going to work. And I think that's really what you're going to figure out probably after week 3, week 4, like you talked about. I think that's where you really figure out what this Philadelphia Eagles team can do, because I don't believe 4 games from Jalen Hurts was enough to really dissect what he can do well and what he can't do well at an NFL level. What do you think?
I mean, we had a good taste of it last year, honestly. I mean, he was already making records, records are records. They're just words and numbers to me. The way that he carried himself last year, the way that team wanted to rally around him, but at the same time, that locker room knew it was too far gone. They were dealing with all the trauma from Carson. They were dealing with all the drama from the front office and Doug Peterson. They needed a breath of fresh air. Those guys were working under so much pressure, so much tension that locker room was never used to for the 17-18 season and maybe even some of the 19 season before COVID. We were finding our way. We couldn't. It was like the Carolina Panthers, the year they won the Super Bowl with Cam Newton, and the next year they didn't even win 6 games. It's one of those things like everyone gets that Super Bowl hangover, but a lot of it has to attribute to what your chemistry is in that locker room. Nick Sirianni has a hell of a grip on what those guys are doing now. He's already made his point. Him and Jalen are actually connecting on a more personal level so that they can develop that chemistry. A lot of stuff that Doug Peterson lost his touch on. So I'm going to be very interested to see. And, going back to Carson, again, I'll always follow him, but I'm really just as excited to see that man roll on the field as I am the entire Eagles team. So follow Carson in spite of the problem. So that I'm hoping that the build around him on the Colts is going to be beneficial, but like you say, it's a wait and see. So we can be skeptic all we want, but until we actually see the facts of the matter, there's nothing we can say to change what's going on today.
Absolutely, Alec. I appreciate the phone call. And, man, the phone line's open every single Sunday. Feel free to call and give your Eagles homer take, because I try to take the glasses off. But, I need that fandom that's reinvigorating in the phone call. So I appreciate the phone call, Alec, and enjoy the Sunday, and hopefully we get to talk about a W.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll be in touch with you later this afternoon, buddy. Good luck today in fantasy, too.
Sounds good. Thank you. You as well. That was Alec, the Eagle fanatic. Obviously, the fandom runs wild with us Eagles fans. I want to get back to breaking down a couple more games, and then I'm going to get into my pick sixes, because I want to win you guys some cold, hard cash. And that's, at the end of the day, Rivers Casino being open, being around the corner. Excuse me. The COVID restrictions a little less than it was last year. So now is the time to go get some money. So I want to make sure I give you my pick sixes because it's a little easier to go there and bet now that the restrictions have really calmed down throughout the capital region. But let's get back to breaking down games because one of the intriguing games is involving an capital region team. Well, regional team. That is the New York Jets against the Carolina Panthers. You have Sam Darnold going against his replacement, Zach Wilson. And we get to see what Robert Saleh can be as a head coach for the Jets. We also see what potentially Zach Wilson can be as a quarterback. And I think this is a good opening game for Zach Wilson being a Jets player because the simple fact that during the preseason, yeah, he balled out. But guess what? He balled out against second and third stringers. Going against the Carolina team that the last two NFL drafts, they spent a absurd amount of draft picks on the defensive side of the ball. This is a team still building the defensive side of the ball. So I think this is a good talk. Good start for Zach Wilson going against the team that's still rebuilding the defense of the Carolina Panthers. I also think this is a chance for Sam Darnold to say, throw up that finger that's in between all the other ones right towards the New York Jets because I do think that he has now have more of a chance to succeed with the Carolina Panthers. Another game, obviously regional interest. We got to talk about the Giants and the Denver Broncos. Injuries, the rustiness. I don't want to see it on the field. Daniel Jones. Most quarterbacks make the year 1 to year 2 leap. We've seen it with Josh Allen take the year 2 to year 3 leap, becoming an MVP candidate, ultimately finishing second in the MVP race last year. Not saying Daniel Jones is going to be the second best quarterback in the league this year, but I need to see that talent finally turn over to victories because at this time, it's not enough. It's not enough to see the potential. I need that potential to turn into victories. And it starts going against a bounce back defensive team with Von Miller, but a very winnable game. A very winnable game because I don't think this offense is going to be that great. I still think the defense needs to find themselves. They had a really bad year last year. Von Miller was out with an injury. So I'm going to kind of throw that one to the side, see what we get with the Broncos this year. But Vic Fangio's fighting for his job. That's why he has Teddy Bridgewater starting at the quarterback position and not Drew Lock. I think Teddy Bridgewater, as good as a veteran as he is, does not know how to win big games and win big games late. I think this is a game there for the taking for the Giants. But can Daniel Jones make enough plays, enough throws to ultimately lead the Giants to victory? That's the big question. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM. Coming up in a couple of minutes, I'm going to get to my pick sixes of the week. You still have time to make it down to Rivers Casino. So I'm going to give you my lines. You go ahead, take them, win some cash, and thank me later. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM.
This hour is sponsored by Holbrook Heating and Air Conditioning.
Your life, your hopes, and whatever you're searching for at 1:15 a.m. It's really none of our business, and it shouldn't be anyone else's. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
The pandemic's reminded us we live in a sea of airborne germs that can assault us with every breath. Your nose is the body's first line of defense by helping filter out allergens, bacteria, and viruses before they reach your lungs. But like any air filter, the more clogged up it gets, the less it works. So how do you clean your nose? I'm Martin Hoke, and I didn't invent nasal irrigation. The neti pot's been around thousands of years. But I did invent Navage to make cleaning your nose easy. Navage
Pick
uses
sixes coming up.
to flush out mucus and
Gonna
germs
serve 'em
that
hot.
cause congestion, or worse, can make you sick. Over 2 million people use Navage to
Got about a minute and a half until I get to these picks. Last year, I think I won 70% of the bets. but I do have that jinx, that monumental jinx. So if I were you out there going to Rivers Casino, whatever I tell you, I would do opposite. Even though I won 70% last year, this year, just especially the first part of the season where you're getting to know these teams, this is really where it's going to come costly if you put a little too much. But we'll see how I do. We'll see how I do. All right, we got about roughly 30 seconds till we get into it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Going to try to do this every Sunday. So hopefully you're available on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, whatever it may be. You know, feel free to comment, like, share. I appreciate the support.
The message quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand.
Who brought the sauce?
I brought the sauce.
Who made the sauce?
I made the sauce.
What's in the sauce?
I am the sauce.
Who brought the sauce? Okay.
6 games,
Bounty, the quicker picker
6
upper.
wins. Let's go.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Fox Sports 980 and 95.9 FM.
It's showtime! Let's go play some ball. Let's be real men today. Go see some fireworks. It is now time for Zach's Pick 6.
Pick 6.
Pick 6. Zach's Pick 6 picks of the week.
That's right. We had so much success last year. We're bringing back the segment this year. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM, as well as the free iHeartRadio app. Got a couple minutes left if you want to call in, give your predictions for the season, or even just for today. Feel free. 1-800-TALK-WGY, 1-800-825-5949. Let's get into it. Zach's Pick 6 picks of the week, starting off right here regionally. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 6.5 going against the Buffalo Bills because I think this is a line indicative of what we saw late in the season from the Pittsburgh Steelers and what we saw throughout the regular season last year with Josh Allen and co. I think this is a team that revamped the defensive side of the ball. The Buffalo Bills did. I think they need more from their pass rushers, but I don't think this is the game they see it. I do think this early in the season, where you may not be 100%, but you're going to be like 98, 99% healthy. Because no one starts 100% healthy, but you're going to start as close to 100% healthy. That's what we're going to get with Ben Roethlisberger. I think this is a close game. I think they might be able to pull up the upset, but being in the Capital Region, going to be a homer right now. I do think the Bills win the game. I just think a 6.5 point spread is just too much for my liking. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 6.5. Next game, I kind of talked about it through the show. San Francisco -9 at Detroit. I got to go with Detroit because I don't think they're going to be as bad as everybody thinks. They might have a blowout loss here or there, but I think ultimately they remain competitive. I'm going to take Detroit plus 9. Next up is the Los Angeles Chargers against the Washington football team. The Washington football team is favored -2. All these lines are courtesy of Rivers Casino. You can go right there and take a bet. And if you don't want to spend too much time in line, you go online to Rivers Casino Schenectady Sport. They have a bet slip builder. You build it there. Then you just have it scanned right there. Boom, place your bet. Bam, done. But I'm taking in the Los Angeles Chargers +2 because I think they're going to win this game outright. I'm a big believer in Justin Herbert, but that's not why I'm jumping on the Chargers train. I'm jumping on the Chargers train because they have a defensive stud back, a kind of guy that you absolutely have to game plan around from a defensive standpoint. Derwin James is back. He's going to remind people why. 2-3 years ago, we considered this guy one of the best defensive players in the league, not just one of the best defensive safeties in the league. So I'm taking the Chargers +2. I think that's going to be a big difference maker, especially late in games. They have a playmaker that can go after the ball on third down. He's going to make big plays, and that's going to be the difference in the Chargers season and ultimately whether they make the playoffs or not. Next, I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers -4 over the New York Jets. I do think the Jets do show promise this week. I do think Jets fans will be able to get a little bit ramped up. They know they're not going to win 10, 11 games, but they're going to win some games. I think this is a team that can ultimately win 6 or 7 games. This is just not going to be one of them. I think Sam Darnold has waited all season long to prove what he wanted to prove against the Jets. Comes in week 1. Let's get it. Carolina Panthers -4. Next on my list, I'm taking the Green Bay Packers -3.5 over the New Orleans Saints. Jameis Winston looked great, but guess who looked better last year? That's right, Aaron Rodgers, former MVP, reigning MVP, and he's playing with a lot of hate right now. He doesn't care what Gutekunst says. He's going out there and balling out, and I think you're going to get another year of an absolute stud performance from Aaron Rodgers. I take them -3.5. Last game real quickly, Chicago +8. Andy Dalton is a very serviceable quarterback, especially when you have the talent around him. And I think, having Allen Robertson at the wide receiver position, great guy. You also finally have David Montgomery back, who's going to be able to run the ball. This is For the Love of Sports on Fox Sports 980, 95.9 FM.
Not earning double miles on every purchase.
You're right. My
Thanks,
car
guys,
only
for
gets
tuning
extra
in.
miles on some types
Great
of
show.
purchases.
Going to
With the
continue to
Capital
get
One
better.
Venture card, you earn
For those of
unlimited
you that
double
want me to
miles
run through the picks real
everywhere.
quick, hold on
Where
one
can we use
second.
them?
I know I went a little quickly. All right, Pittsburgh +6.5. Book it. Detroit +9 over the San Francisco 49ers. Book it. Los Angeles Chargers +2 over the Washington football team. Book it. Carolina Panthers -4 over the New York Jets. This isn't a hatred against the Jets. I do think they play well, just not well enough to win, because this is Sam Darnold's time to shine. I think ultimately he does bounce back, at least for this week, going against his reigning team and his supreme guy who ultimately took his job in Zach Wilson. So Carolina -4, book it. Green Bay Packers -3.5. No explanation needed. Aaron Rodgers is going to ball out. Jameis Winston's first real action with the New Orleans Saints in the regular season as the starter. I think he goes back to what he was in Tampa, hopefully back more towards his rookie year than what he did the last time he played with Tampa, where he was a 30-30 guy. Lastly, but not leastly, Chargers +8 going against Chicago +8 going against the Los Angeles Rams. This isn't an indictment on the Rams. This is more my belief in Andy Dalton being a serviceable quarterback, but this is more about the defense. The Bears have a great defense. This is going to be a close game, and ultimately I think that the Bears defense can keep it within 8 points, and I think Andy Dalton can make enough plays on the offensive side of the ball to keep this game within 8 points, but I do think the Rams ultimately win the game. Thank you guys for tuning in, however you may be tuning in. Make sure you like it, share it, and tune in next Sunday at 11 a.m. Get ready for week 2 of football.